Josh from Multiversity here with Brandon Seifert of the Witch Doctor fame. How is it doing being the Witch Doctor fame?
It's a little weird. It's neat. Yeah, it's. I've never done this before, so I don't have any baseline, and it seems to be doing really well. So yeah.
Is this your first? I guess this is your first time working in comics. Is this the first time you're having anything published?
It is. I mean, I used to do journalism, so I've been published before, but not in this sort of capacity. You know, it's very different to have like an article in a newspaper as opposed to going into a comic store and there's a comic and you made it and it's there and it's all over the country. Oh, and there's a door here. Sorry about that.
So how did the concept for a Witch Doctor originate?
I've always really liked the idea of the occult doctor, which, you know, the doctor who investigates the supernatural. And that's a really old idea in horror fiction. It like predates Dracula by like 20 years at least. But I'd never seen it played straight. I'd never seen a doctor who investigates the supernatural and like acts like a doctor. So I kind of had that idea, a doctor who investigates the supernatural and is a doctor. And I put that in a notebook in like 2001. And forgot about it. And then Lucas and I started talking about doing a comic together, and I went back and I found that again. And I was like, oh yeah, that could be cool. We could do that. And it just sort of started snowballing, and we just got more and more ideas for it. And it turned into, like, it was only supposed to be a 16-page portfolio piece, and it's gotten a little bit, yeah, it's gotten a bit bigger than that at this point.
So how did Skybound come into the picture?
A couple years ago, we got a cold email from Robert Kirkman because we'd done a 16-page kind of, you know, proof of concept, and we put it up online for free, and we'd sold it at conventions. We did a very small, we did like 200 copies at a time kind of print run. And Robert saw some of Lucas's art online and followed the link and found the comic and really liked the comic and just like cold emails us. And it was like one line long. The subject is like, book looks good, do you have a publisher for this? And then the body was like, Image would be interested. Robert. And that was it.
Was that 16-page story, is that what became issue 0?
It is, yeah. We ended up revising it completely. I rewrote it and Lucas redrew it. But it's that same core story.
So how did you go about balancing the kind of medical jargon stuff with the more traditional horror aspects of the book?
That's kind of an ongoing process. I'm still trying to figure out exactly how geeky should I make the geeky medical stuff. So you notice it kind of varies between issues. The first issue had a lot of it, partially because we were establishing the world and establishing the character, and the second one had substantially less. So it's an ongoing process. Like how much ridiculous biology research can I include in an issue without turning people off with it? And that's a very good question.
So where do you draw from when you craft the Doctor's personality? Because it seems like you have a very specific idea of what his voice should be and how he would act. And I'm wondering where'd you kind of build that character from?
You know, I don't really have a good answer to that. That was just sort of the voice that came out when I started writing the character. Like, I knew that I wanted him to be, you know, the kind of snarky jerk doctor, but I'd never watched like House MD or anything like that before that. And I can't really point to, you know, it's based on this. Since then, like I've definitely been inspired by things like the Iron Man movie. Tony Stark in the Iron Man movie is a big influence, and Benedict Cumberbatch playing Sherlock on the new BBC Sherlock is like, that's a big influence. But as far as, and I guess Warren Ellis comics is definitely in there, like substantially. But as far as his voice goes, like that was just what started coming out when I started writing the series.
So when you write the Doctor's supporting cast, it seems like in a lot of ways they're both explicitly supposed to be there and that they're reflecting on the Doctor, but a lot of them, specifically Gast, seems a lot like Collateral Damage. Like, how do you define a supporting cast for a character that unique?
Yeah, that would probably be an easier question to answer if I'd ever done this before, ever. Right. Like, the secret to everything in this is we're making it up as we go along. We don't know what we're doing. And when we were designing the book, I mean, we've got this protagonist who is, he's got this medical background and he's in this supernatural world, and he kind of balances the two. So the obvious thing for me was we'd have the character who's the refugee from the medical drama to represent the medical side, and the character who's the refugee from the more standard horror story to represent the horror side. And it hasn't quite worked out that way. But I mean, that was pretty much all the thought that I put into sort of the cast design. And then it's been an ongoing process trying to figure out who these people are, and figuring out their voice. Penny has been very difficult because as we finally got into in the third issue, she's not especially human, and I would like to have a non-human character that doesn't just like act like a human, except with like one quality emphasized or de-emphasized. Like Klingons are aliens, except they're humans, except they're angry and they fight and they're honorable. Or like Buffy the Vampire Slayer, a lot of the demons are, they're demons, except they're just humans, but mean.
Yes.
And I didn't want to do that, but it turns out to be substantially more difficult to, that is the easier way to do.
So you got the last issue dropping soon. Yes. And then you have...
It's at the printer right now. We finished it up. We actually finished it up last week. Narrowly missed by about 2 hours, missed our deadline to get it out last week of October in time for Halloween. So it's coming out November 2nd. It's the first Wednesday of November. So
Halloween hangover entertainment.
Yes. And it's apparently some parts of Mexico they're still celebrating Day of the Dead for a few days afterwards. So it's topical, depends on where you live.
So we also have the one-shot coming in December. What do you have planned for that, and are you going to be setting the stage for anything to come after that in that one-shot?
The one-shot is called Witch Doctor: The Resuscitation, and it starts with this guy waking up in a hotel bathtub full of ice with an incision over one of his kidneys. And then he goes to the hospital and discovers he's still got both kidneys. And then Morrow comes in for a second opinion. So it's going to be another kind of standalone, done-in-one story. We're intending it to be another good introduction to the series for people who haven't read it before. But it does also introduce some of the more, some of the larger things that we're going to build on. And it definitely, strongly leads into the next miniseries. I don't think you're going to need to read it to understand the next miniseries, but it certainly gives you more context. And you meet some of the characters that are going to be involved coming up.
So is the plan to do an ongoing series of miniseries, or is a Witch Doctor ongoing in the cards?
The thing about ongoing monthly comics that a lot of fans, don't necessarily get, and that I didn't get until I started trying to make them, is that they're really difficult and they're really time-consuming, and it can be very difficult to make one every single month. And for us, we're brand new, neither of us are working at full speed yet. It takes me a while to make scripts, it takes him a while to do the art. So neither of us are physically capable of producing an ongoing monthly comic at this point. And we have always intended to do it as a series of one-shots and miniseries, so it works out, it works out pretty well for that. But yeah, the only thing that's holding us back, Skybound, I think would be fine with us making it an ongoing. We just physically can't do it yet. And maybe we'll get to a point where we can, maybe we won't. But we want to try to produce as many issues as we can and put them out as often as we can.
So big, grandiose closing question. What can people expect from Witch Doctor moving forward?
More crazy monsters drawn by Lucas, which I think is one of the big appeals. And we're going to be getting into more of the mythology, more of sort of the backstory, and we're also going to be, dealing with the characters more and explaining more of who these people are. We've gotten a little bit of that with Penny, but we haven't even hinted at what Eric is there for, and we'll be getting around to that. So,
thank you very much, sir. Thanks for taking the time.